Okay, well, it is 4:32. You have a quorum. Jerry will be a few minutes late and have not heard at all from Bob Rollinger. So you can certainly start the meeting if you're so inclined, or you can wait.
Okay, Gary Seidel looking at attendance here. I can see we got A-Joy, we got Bill Ganger, we got Andy Dyke, we got Leah, Lisa, and myself here in attendance. So yes, we do have a quorum for the January 5th, 2021 meeting. With that being said, we will open up oral communications at this time. So if there is anybody in the audience that'd like to be able to address the board, you have this opportunity to be able to do so. However, you are limited to 2 minutes per individual. Maximum time for this oral communication period is 10 minutes. We do have a longer oral communication period at the end of the agenda. If you'd like to speak up to 5 minutes, we will be glad to be able to let you talk here. So you have your choice. Is there anybody that would like to address us in oral communications number 1?
Please raise your hand if you want to chat, and we will open you to talk. Oh, there's Bob Rollinger. Hold on. Oh, Catherine Harrington would like to talk.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chair Harrington.
Well, I'm just here to say Happy New Year. Thank you for serving on the Fair Board. Right now, the COVID virus is kicking our collective community butt, and darn, and it's not quite the way I wish our new year was starting out. I remain ever hopeful that the logistics of 2022 will be more straightforward than they've been for the last couple of years, but we don't have too much influence or control over that. So thank you for your continuous flexibility. I really appreciate it. Take care, stay healthy, do the best you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Catherine. Happy New Year to you too.
Anybody else wishing to address the Fair Board at this time?
I don't see any other hands.
Okay, with that, we do have a second one, so that can leave somebody, if they'd like to talk, they can talk at the next one here. Let's move down to C, reports. And let's look at pretty much the financial reports for fiscal year 21-22.
Great, thank you, Gary. So I've got 2 financial reports for you to review today. I'm going to actually do them slightly out of order as listed in the packet. Back in November, we were scheduled to review the final financial report from the last fiscal year, from July 2020 to June 30, 2021. And since we ended up not having a November meeting due to a lack of a quorum, I have that financial report for last fiscal year in front of you. As a reminder, that financial is from the 2020, July 2020 County Fair, which you know we did not have. So the financials are a little bit interesting because we had no real revenue. We did have a little bit of transient lodging tax. We had a little bit of Department of Ag lottery funds. We still did have some staffing expenses, but they were limited. So we ended last fiscal year in the positive, which is good. So, but I did want you to have your financial, final financial for last fiscal year, and I do need you to take action on that officially.
Does anyone have any questions on the financials for 2020?
Oh, go ahead.
Jerry Willie just signed on. So good afternoon, Commissioner Willie. We were just going over last fiscal year's final financial report.
Okay, yeah, and I've looked that over, and you made the corrections that were necessary, so I'm good with that. So you're talking about 6/30/21?
Yeah, July 2020 through 6/30/2021, last fiscal year, which encompassed the 2020 county fair that did not happen.
Yes, yeah, and I'm good with those.
Yeah.
So
Jerry-
yeah,
Jerry, thanks for catching those errors. So I'll make a motion to approve all the financials then. that are-
I
Okay,
second.
we have- Okay, everybody in approval, say aye.
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 Aye. Looks like we have approval. Anybody not approving? See none. The approval for the finances of July 2020 to June 2021 are approved.
Great, thank you. So moving right along now to our current monthly financial report, which encompasses July 2021, which is when our last county fair was, through November of 2021. So there's 4 months of financials there. So this is the first time we've seen the financials since we met in September at our post-fair board meeting. So the news is good. The financials look pretty good. We had a really good 2021 Washington County Fair. You'll see that the transient lodging tax is actually coming in much higher than we originally anticipated. When the TLT tax was, way down because of COVID, we did not anticipate it coming back so quickly, even though it's still lower than pre-pandemic. It came back a little bit faster than than county finance anticipated, so that's great news. And then the county fair did very well with commercial booth sales and parking and carnival sales. So we had a really strong revenue year for the county fair. We also have some staffing charges in there that are lower than normal because we didn't have the amount of staff we normally have, but we did bring in a lot of contract employees. So you'll see that our professional services are higher than we normally would have anticipated. And as a reminder, the one other thing I want to point out, just as a reminder, because it's a long time ago since you guys approved this budget, we weren't sure what the 2021 fair was going to look like. So we actually budgeted for our standard normal 4-day county fair because we knew what that looked like. And at the time we thought, as we were still working on COVID protocols, that we might only have a 4-day fair. Then we ended up expanding that to the 10 days, because we thought about physical distancing and all that kind of stuff. So it evolved over time since the last time you actually approved that budget. So the budget numbers were based upon a 4-day fair and a lower TLT collection fair. So it doesn't match up all that great, but when you really look at the revenue versus the expenditures, and don't worry about the actual budget numbers since it was based upon a 4-day pandemic fair, we did pretty well. And right now we're showing that we are $500,000 to the good, and that we will still be collecting TLT tax throughout the remainder of the year, but we will still be incurring some staff charges, but it's still pretty minimal. So all in all, I think this fiscal year is going to turn out very well.
Got a question.
Yeah.
Any questions on the financials for July of 2021 through
Yeah,
November
Gary,
2021?
I've got one for Leah. With coming back from our pandemic levels, do you expect to do a lot of overtime?
No, I'll talk about that when we talk about the budget proposal, because I do want to talk about staffing and professional services and contract work when I talk about the proposed budget, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's going to affect the budget so much, the staffing levels, and since we're at a low staff level right now.
Yeah, so our staff level is better now than it was when we had the 2021 county fair. And while I tried to keep overtime fairly low for the existing staff that we had at that time, the staff that we did have, Albert, and it was primarily the maintenance crew, ended up with a lot of overtime, which we ended up paying out on for those. So we still had quite a bit of overtime charges for this last year, but minimal staff. But moving forward, as we're bringing back staff, and we've brought some staff back since the fair ended, and as we're moving into the next fair, I don't anticipate that we're going to have a ton of overtime, but we have overtime every year. We always have. We try our best to really keep it to a minimum, but it still happens. But moving into the next fiscal year with labor shortages and higher expenses, I still want to use some contract employees, but we'll talk about that when we talk about next fiscal year's proposed budget.
Leah, what positions do you have back now?
So we now have all 4 of our general service aides positions filled. Yay, and we have the 4 best employees. I mean, we had 2 that started right before the fair. I don't know if all of you really even met them all, but we had Alex and Joseph that started with us right before the fair, and they were an excellent asset to the fair. Boy, it was, we threw them right into the fire. They started just right before the fair. And then just in the last couple of months, we hired 2 more of our general services aides. Those 4 positions are the people that set up and tear down the events, clean the bathrooms, mow the grass, do all of the operational labor for the fairgrounds and for our events. And so they are very crucial to our operation. And we have 4 amazing employees. We just added Juan and Guillermo to our staff, and boy, they are just dynamos. They're like Les Schwab employees. They run everywhere they go, and we are very pleased. We brought a new event services coordinator on, Kyle Nepper, who actually has worked with us in the past. He was a contract employee for the fair in 2017, 18, and 19, and he's actually on staff full-time. We brought him in October. And then we've got a part-time employee that's going to be starting here in about a month, who is going to be a 6-month, 24-hour-a-week event coordinator as well, assisting Kyle and Albert and Lisa and the event team. Because the good news is the event center booking and fairgrounds rentals are picking up, and we're actually starting to get really busy, which is great, but we didn't have quite enough staff. So we're getting staffed back up. And when we have full-time staff and even part-time staff that work here at the fairgrounds, they work for the fair too. Everybody works for the fair.
Okay, any other questions on approval of the finances? Okay, can we get a approval from the board to approve the financials from July of 2021 to November of 2021? If so, say aye.
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 I didn't hear.
Anybody opposed?
Did we have a motion?
You kind of skipped the motion step.
I guess I skipped the motion. All
I'll
right.
make that motion. That we accept the financials
Okay.
for 2021.
Okay,
Who was
and
the
we've already
second?
had the vote, so I think we're good.
I'll second it if there is none.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Okay.
moving on to educational fund. Bob Rollinger, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, we had a meeting on the 21st with Jean, Dan, myself, and Aaron. A date was selected, which is May 7th. We were going to try to have our next meeting in person, so we'll see about that now, since we were going to have it at my office, which, which you all know burned down over the weekend. So, but our next meeting is July 18th. Dan is working on the financials and the new arrangements. Thank you, Leah, for all your help with that. We're looking to reassign a bookkeeper. We haven't done that yet. We all have our next steps are to decide on a caterer. We met with Leah and looked at the space that we're going to have, and we're moving forward with our licensing, tickets. Pat and I are going to start working on some sponsorships, and that's about where we are right now. Our next meeting is here in January, so far we're moving right along with it. Any questions about that? Then that's my report.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. Leah, anything on FAC?
So just a couple quick quick things on the FAC. While the FAC hasn't had a meeting, I did talk to the FAC President Daniel Pearson just recently, and he's trying to get something coordinated so we can actually get a meeting scheduled. I'm hoping that we can get a meeting scheduled for February, maybe even March. He's pretty busy right now, but we're trying to get something on the books. And then we actually do have some board appointments coming up for the FAC. Carolyn McCormick retired last year, so she is no longer on the FAC, but the new WCVA president, Dave Perullo, has applied, and I presented him as well as Deanna Palm and Jennifer Rishlick, who are existing members, to the Board of Commissioners yesterday, and we'll go back in 2 weeks for final appointment. So we've got a little bit of change coming to the FAC, but hopefully they will be meeting very soon. I'm actually going to ask Dan to see if we can get 2 meetings scheduled this year. We need to get back on track with the FAC, but so hopefully we'll have more to report soon.
Okay, perfect. Do we have a 4-H report?
So I just promoted Angela Sandino from OSU to give us a 4-H report. Unless, Angela, is there someone else that you would like?
No, that's perfect. I will give the report.
Great.
All right, thank you all. So I've got 4 kind of general areas to report on for 4-H in Washington County. As you all know, Pat Willis retired at the end of August, and currently we're in the process of interviewing candidates for his replacement. Later this month, the final candidates will be giving public presentations over Zoom, and we will be recording these presentations, and we'll email the links also to you, so you can attend if you'd like to. Attendees will have the opportunity to both listen into the presentations and to ask questions to each candidate. And then you also probably know that our 4-H support staff, Darcy Shaw, is retiring at the end of this month, and we are going to miss Darcy very much. We've hired her replacement, and we're happy that Deanne Pope started with us in mid-December, and she's getting onboarded as we speak. So welcome to Deanne, and best of luck to Darcy. And then our enrollment. So enrollment numbers for 4-H across the state of Oregon are very low, which is unfortunate. In Washington County, we're also experiencing lower enrollment numbers than normal. And this may be reflected during the 2022 fair. We are still in the process of accepting enrollments for the current 4-H year. And then other program updates, the first weigh-in for the season will be beef, and it is scheduled for February 12th from 8 to 10 at the West Side Commons. And we invite people to attend that if they'd like to. And then finally, the horse fair. It's after much deliberation, the Washington County 4-H horse program, with support from OSU Extension and the 4-H office, has decided to host their horse fair in Yamhill County from July 5th to 10th. A decision needed to be made prior to the end of the year to allow for our 4-H parents to request time off from work and to secure horse judges. This decision was also made because there are still some safety concerns that relate to the main arena and warm-up arena. But the horse fair would still be happy to have youth bring their horses to the Washington County Fair to be in the barns and to lead demos for the public. That's what I have from 4-H.
Andrea, can I ask a question? This is Gary Seidel.
Yes.
I've got a couple questions. Back in September, we had an awful lot of letters, accusations going on. And Andy, Leah met with quite a few of the people, and we had a chance to talk to them to alleviate some of those unfounded accusations and some that were completely untrue. We were able to work out a couple good things, and it was decided that there was going to be a meeting in November that was going to be sponsored by OSU to be able to help us get through this, where we'd get a couple people from the horse side, the 4-H side. We'd also get a couple people from fair boards to be able to have that meeting, but the November meeting was canceled. And so with that one being canceled, we scheduled the next meeting in there of December 1st. That meeting was going to have Leah, Jerry Willie, myself, and Andy there to be able to also meet, to be able to come up with some issues to see how we could approve. And so 2 months, we had 2 months to go by, and yet we don't get anything, except now we hear that the horse fair is going to go to Yamhill. And we had no choice in this, and we've invested a lot of money. We invested $30,600 last year to get a base, also to put in the appropriate sand, the angled sand. And then we've also spent $37,000 this year to be able to get panels and to get a couple other issues in here. And so now we've got a lot invested in what's going on. So I know you say you're going to go to Yamhill, and that decision's already been made. Nothing we can do about that. However, realizing you would like to be able to come to the fair to be able to talk, I'd like to get a written proposal, because over the past year and a half, all we've seen are demands. And so if you would like to attend the fair board with the horses and be able to show the animals, we would like to get a written proposal to be able to alleviate exactly what's going on so we can make sure we're all on track. And if we can get that within the next month or two, this will be nice to allow us to be able to set up to be able to move forward with the horse fair now coming in. Also, with that proposal, please let us know if there's any additional costs that the fair board needs to consider. Can you make sure that happens?
We can make sure that happens. Yes.
Beautiful, thank you. And if you would, just send it to Leah. Leah will make sure that the fair board gets it.
Okay, we will. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on 4-H? Angela, did you have anything else to report on 4-H?
That was my report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, then,
Angela.
Steve.
And I
What's that?
just really quick before we move off of 4-H, I know Darcy Shaw is on the video call, and I do just want to say thank you to Darcy. I've worked with Darcy for a very long time. She's been the 4-H coordinator that's been working with the kids and the volunteers and our staff for many, many years. And she's retiring at the end of this month, and she will be very missed. She has been a great champion for 4-H, as well as has always worked really well with our staff and understood the challenges that we had. And she's always worked really hard. So I just wanted to say thank you to Darcy, and good luck, and enjoy retirement, and just enjoy retirement, and have a great 2022.
Okay, then seeing that, we'll move on to old business. And I don't have any listed here. Leah, do we have any old business outstanding?
I do not have any old business.
Okay, then we'll move into new business, and we'll talk about the planning for the fair 2022.
Okay, so the fair is coming. I know I sent a few last week that it's, like 200 days to the fair. So it's coming very quickly, and it will be here before we know it. So it's exciting. So proposing that we have a 10-day fair again next year. And the dates will be July 22nd through July 31st, following the same pattern that we have used this last year. And in the past, when we had 4 days, we always encompassed the last 4 days of July. I want to keep the patterns fairly similar, but yet make a couple little changes. Last year, we opened at 5 p.m. on weekdays, including Fridays, and went till 11. And on Monday through, and then Mondays through Fridays as well, we opened at 5 p.m. So we did get a lot of community feedback that senior citizens, especially people with very small children, wanted to see at least one weekday that was open in the morning. So families with senior citizens or small children didn't have to be on weekends. So we're proposing that our second Friday, we actually open at 10 o'clock in the morning, like we do on Saturdays and Sundays, but on the first Friday and then Monday through Thursday, still stay open at 5 p.m. and go till 10 p.m. That seemed to work really well on those weeknights. Those 5 hours, people can come in, ride some rides, see some entertainment, eat some food. The cost for operating for those few hours is actually quite minimal, and we actually do very well from a revenue standpoint for being open for that period of time. Then on the Friday, both Fridays, we would actually stay open till midnight, same thing on Saturdays. So prior to this last fair, we were always open till midnight, and we had a lot of people that were not happy that we closed at 11 p.m. So we got a lot of feedback about people that wanted to stay and ride rides till midnight like we used to do in the past. So that is something that we are going to bring back on just those 2 nights, Fridays and Saturday nights, and then close at 10 p.m. on all other nights. I am also proposing that we have no national act concerts. It is probably no surprise to anybody that the cost of acts is way more now coming out of the pandemic. I thought it was actually going to be the opposite, but like one of our entertainment agents said, all those acts that didn't get to be on the road during 2020 and 21 have money to make up. So those poor billionaire artists who have houses all over the world didn't get to make extra money during the pandemic, and they'd like to make it up. And so they've in some cases increased by 50 to 100%. And we can't make that up in ticket sales. It's just not physically possible. So Old Dominion, that cost us $225,000 in 2019, is now $500,000. And we can't sell enough tickets at a reasonable enough price that the public would be willing to pay to make any money. So in talking to a lot of other fairgrounds, and actually the Western Fairs Association conference is coming up, and we are having a lot of discussions about concerts. How can fairs continue to have concerts when the acts actually don't care if fairs make any money or not? So not looking at any national act concerts, but looking at some of those larger regional style acts that, you know, we know are out there, the Pink Martinis and some of those more kind of fun regional bands that play throughout, you know, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, into Canada, that they're definitely not, they're not as inexpensive as some of the acts that we have on the Tap House stage, but they are a little bit more money and require a little bit more operational costs, but it's not anything that's too terrible. And it certainly would be something that I would entertain looking at. So it's something that I've got our entertainment people looking at just to see what's out there, what the costs are, and see if that's something that we could do. But those big national act concerts, and I know Andy is going to be happy to hear that we're not doing those. Concerts have been a big love-hate relationship with our fair for a lot of years, and now we just, until things change, and if things change in the concert world, I think that we need to look at things a little bit differently. But we'll bring back the family stage, which we know the family stage is highly important. Last year we moved it into a different location, which I'm proposing that we're going to keep it out. The staff thinks it's a great spot as well. You know, with all those acts with the jugglers and magicians and things like that. Bring back the Tap House stage. That was very, very popular. Sponsored by the Hillsboro Elks last year. They would like to turn around and sponsor that again this year, which is great. Bring back the Growing Grove. Last year we did not have the Growing Grove. As you remember, the Growing Grove is a very hands-on oriented type of activity. And during the pandemic, we decided to kind of reduce that. So we're going to bring back the Growing Grove. We're going to refresh it. It needs some refreshing of that entertainment area, but bring back that. It's one of the most popular things for families with small children. Bring back 2 big plaza shows. You know, normally we have the one plaza show, like where the racing pigs have been historically, and we actually have some extra space now at the end of the event center, which at the end of the wingspan, I actually need to say wingspan more often. There's a very large grass area, and last year we didn't utilize it. It was actually, the grass was trying to grow. We fenced it off. This year we have this beautiful grass lawn area, and we want to put a specialty act there if we can find one. So that's something that we'll be looking at. We will continue to have the usual food and beverage, commercial vendors inside and outside. In talking to Bob O'Loughlin, who does our vendor sales, who's our contract employee, he has plans to sell a lot more outside space. Last year, you know, with just the short period of time, he sold out the expo hall, but we had limited outside vendors. So looking to increase that outside. The carnival did very well last year in their expanded space. We gave them the amphitheater. Without concerts this year, we'll give them that expanded amphitheater footprint as well. And they spread out last year a lot because of COVID, which actually really helped with some of the lines. Although, as for any of you that were out there, the lines were still really long. So we've asked them to try to spread out even a little bit more. But the carnival did very well. And we actually just signed another 10-year contract with Butler Amusements. It was hard to believe that this last year was our 10-year anniversary with Butler Amusements. Some of you remember when we made that change 10 years ago. And we just re-upped with them for another 10 years, which is great. Signing those long-term type of carnival contracts allows them to leverage their funds to actually purchase new carnival rides. So when they have a lot of long-term contracts, they can use that with their financing agents to purchase newer and bigger and better rides. So we'll be seeing some new rides out of Butler Amusements in the next coming years. 4-H and FFA livestock shows, you just heard from Angela that while enrollment sounds like it's very low, which is not surprising, we look forward to working with 4-H and FFA and for the kids who are registered and getting their 4-H projects, whether it's the home art or static or technology or animals in here, we'll be working closely with 4-H. But it does not surprise me that their enrollment is low just coming out of the pandemic, but we'll be working with them to make sure that the kids that are enrolled have a place to be. I haven't heard from anyone from the youth livestock auction yet. Hopefully, either I will reach out to them or they will reach out to me and we'll talk about what the auction might look like this year. I know we talked about last year, it could possibly be a quasi, part virtual, part in person, but we'll see what they want to do. Happy to hear that weigh-ins are being scheduled, so that means they're moving forward. 4-H static program requested, you probably remember way back in September, they requested to be in the Cloverleaf building this year, again, like they were in the past. So we've got the Cloverleaf building will be reserved for that 4-H program as well. We are bringing back the open class home arts competition in the Wingspan Event and Conference Center. Our staff had a meeting about that yesterday. We're looking at kind of turning that program on its ear and really trying to innovate and do some really creative things to bring some life back into that program while still having the traditional quilts and pies and jams and jellies and things like that. So we look forward to seeing what our staff can come up with, and we'll give you more information as that program develops. And then I'll be reaching out to the FFA advisors and letting them know for their static exhibits, because they do photography and welding and different things as well, that they can either be in the expo hall with their programs, or if they want to work with 4-H and be in the Cloverleaf, that's something we can facilitate with them as well. But we definitely want to make sure that FFA realizes that they have a place in the expo hall or somewhere on the grounds with their static exhibits. And that's kind of it. It's January. This is in a nutshell. It's a really high overview of what the staff has got going on and planning. And as things evolve, we'll certainly keep you posted. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Looks like Andy's got one.
Nope. Yep.
Yeah, Leah, I know with the Growing Grove, Farm Bureau tried to dictate the terms of their sponsorship at one time. I think they've learned their lesson, and I know you don't have any shortage of sponsors, of willing sponsors. But if you do need a sponsor, let me know, because I think that they're open to getting back in.
Okay.
Caveat that they know they don't get to dictate.
Okay, that's great. I think that the Farm Bureau in the past has been a great partner for the Growing Grove, as you know, and many other board members know, that the Growing Grove was something that your father was very interested in and was a very big part of when he was in the Farm Bureau. And I would love to see that legacy continue. For those of you that know that when we had the Growing Grove in the past, we had a whole area that was Farmer Ed, which was inspired by Andy's dad. So, and it was very popular with the kids. So, and it was always fun to have him come out and participate in the past. So I will reach out about the Farm Bureau sponsorship and see what we can get going on that. That would be wonderful. Did I see another hand, Bob?
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Gary and I have upped our game this year. If you know it or not, I am a investor in a steer this year. So we'll not only be available to answer questions about the animals and may show them again.
Awesome. I'm so excited. We'll make sure that we have giant blue ribbons ready for you to add to your collection.
Hey, we're looking forward to having more 4-H this year. We had a lot of people down to see the cows that Bill brought, and it's just going to be even bigger next year. So we're excited about that, honestly.
Good. Any other questions about the fair?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I do have one actually.
Yeah.
Will we be doing any kind of a breakfast or anything this year?
So that's a great question. We were actually just talking about that in the office. You know, when we had the old office there in the fair, in the middle of the fairgrounds, it was fairly easy to have a breakfast. I would love to do something. I don't know if it's a breakfast or if it's something else. I think that it would be great to have something that the Fair Board does for the 4-H and FFA kids. I don't know what that will be. So, and honestly, I think that we need to ask 4-H what works best for them. You know, sometimes in the mornings, the kids had a hard time getting over for breakfast and they were, you know, running late or, and I don't know how we will do it, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do something. So if you have some ideas, I'm all ears.
Okay, well, I'm not advocating for it until we have significant participation from 4-H and FFA and get back to pre-pandemic levels. But I just had to ask just so that I was prepared for it.
Yeah, great. Bob.
I think it might be work out better if we did some kind of a barbecue for them one night. Maybe hot dogs and hamburgers or something like that. Get that set up like they use for this the steak feed. That would be easy for us to do and to put on for them, and probably would. Are they mainly available in the evenings, like 5 or 6 o'clock?
Typically, but you know, it just depends on the schedule. But I think Andy is right. You know, let's see what the numbers look like.
Okay.
And, you know, make some decisions once we get a little bit closer.
Okay, great. Well, I'd be willing to work on that. So
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
With that, I see the next agenda is the horse agenda update. Is this a moot point, or you want to talk about it?
No, I think it's important to still talk about because it's work that has to still be done. If 4-H Horse is interested in doing some demos, the arena needs to be worked on. The posse uses the arena. We've got some cow cutting groups that want to come in and use the arena, possibly during the fair, to do some cow cutting demonstrations. So although they like the arena the way it is, but we did, so just so you know, we had Efficient Arena come out on November 17th. Efficient Arena was recommended to us by Joe Casper, who is a 4-H horse parent. It took a long time to get Mark from Efficient Arena to come out. He was very, very busy. Finally got him to come out. Albert met with him for quite a period of time. And while his written report was brief, I was hoping for something a little bit meatier. He's a man of few words in writing, but Albert and him had a lengthy discussion. They spent quite a bit of time together out in the arena, with Mark really giving Albert some, having a good conversation and really talking in depth about what the arena needed. And really what it all came down to is the material is good. The material is fine that's in the sand that's in there. But he said there is way, way too much of it, 4 inches too much, as a matter of fact. And there's only 6 inches in there total. So, and 4 inches of it needs to come out. They spent a lot of time testing depths and discussing the base, you know, what the base looked like, what the base product was. And so him and Albert spent a lot of time talking about that. His comment that he was very, very adamant, very strongly talking about with Albert was to not do not take any of that sand out until it is completely 100% dry. He said if we do that while it's still wet, it can damage the base. So it's almost a little bit of a blessing that horse fair is going to go to Yamhill, because I'm a little bit worried if we have a really rainy year and that thing doesn't dry out in time, we might not be able to get that 4 inches of sand out in time. But we are committed to getting that done. And then he did note that even when 4 inches comes out, he said that type of sand needs to be really, really well watered before the horses use it. And water has been a challenge for us. We used to have a water truck. We don't have a water truck anymore. Renting a water truck in the summer during wildfire season has been very challenging. We've been very, very lucky. 4-H has done a great job of getting Matt Peel with Peel Excavation to donate a water truck each year. Thank goodness. Otherwise, we would have trouble with getting any water on the arena. So we are still committed to doing that. We are going to look for a contractor. The other thing I want to note that Mark's recommendations are very consistent with the other independent arena recommendation that came to us back in July 8th. As a reminder, back on July 8th, a gal who I'm all of a sudden drawing a blank on her name now. She owns a horse training and boarding facility out in Vernonia. Her name was Kim Larson Diker, I believe. And she came out and evaluated. She was hearing a lot of scuttle in the community that the arena was bad. So she gave us her credentials. She had volunteered with the wildfire with 4-H when we had wildfires here in the fall of 2020. And she came out and looked at the arena, evaluated it. And she said almost identical to what Mark Rowley said, and that the sand itself is good, but there was way too much of it. It was way, way too deep. And she recommended taking a lot of the sand out. And she actually recommended adding a fiber product in to hold the sand together with water. She said that was, just something that she would prefer, but not necessary, but it could help that product. So it was very consistent with the other person, with Kim's recommendation. So that was good to see that we've got two independent people with very consistent opinions on the arena. Though unfortunately, Mr. Rowley has declined to do any future work on that arena for a couple of reasons. One being that he felt that the contract and insurance requirements and the contracting process of Washington County was very onerous. It took a long time. He felt like the insurance requirements were too steep, and he was very unhappy with our contracting process. And number two, he was contacted repeatedly by members of 4-H who he felt like were trying to tell him how to report on the arena before he'd seen it, which made him very uncomfortable. And for those two reasons, he is declining to work with us in the future. So Albert's going to begin working on trying to locate a contractor who, once that arena completely dries out, can do that work that's been recommended. And that concludes my report on the arena.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, seeing no hands, let's move on to proposed budget for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Okay, so you have the proposed budget there in front of you. And I'm just going to walk through it fairly quickly. You guys have all seen our budget before, and just really quickly looking at the slide, revenue is based upon our actual revenue from our last 10-day county fair in 2021. Expenditures see increases over 2021 due to several factors. We've got some staff returning positions. We're going to expand our advertising. Last year, with only a couple months notice, we only spent $20,000 to $25,000 in advertising. It was mostly digital. Lisa did not have time to put together a commercial or graphics for billboards or things like that. So we're going to expand our advertising. The amount that I put in the budget for advertising, I put $150,000. Lisa today told me she thinks she can come in under budget in what she's got in mind. So that's good news. We're going to increase our entertainment offerings, like I explained earlier about adding some second bigger show in our plaza, but reducing concerts. So because we're not having concerts, we do want to have some, either expanded regional musical offerings or some other larger entertainment shows, but not national acts. Last year, we had very minimal costs for 4-H and FFA programs and no open class home art. So there'll be some costs associated with that. And then like Andy said earlier, talking about staff increases, we know that there's labor shortages. We know that labor costs are highly increased over what they have been in the past. And that's expected to be an issue that's continuing. So it is a concern. So that's something we're building into the budget, is a cost for increased labor. The other thing that we're building costs increased is for the limited availability and higher cost of rental equipment. Getting rental equipment such as water trucks and excavators and forklifts and the things that we need to actually get the fair set up. They're harder to come by, and when we do get equipment, they are much higher in cost. So we are preparing for that as well. And other than that, everything else is pretty standard. I've budgeted a little bit of training and education and professional development for staff. And in the parking expenses, we are including the, this last year, as you recall, the Sheriff's Department charged us for their services. And so that is not in parking. I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else. So that is actually included. That professional services is being included from the Sheriff's Department in line item 51285. Last year, we didn't have it included in that line item specifically. So we anticipate that's around $60,000. So that'll be included. And then in the parking expenses, which is what I was getting to, that $75,000 includes what Hillsborough Police Department charges us for helping patrol the streets surrounding the fairgrounds during the fair. And the one thing that is, I really want to point out, because this is a huge deal, because it's never happened in my 20-year history of being in at the fairgrounds, is our indirect charges from the county are going down by 15%. I had to read that like 4 times. They've never gone down before. So we get charged on usage. So in the past, the last, 18 months, our usage has been a little bit less. We have less contracts, we write less checks. So it might be a short-lived decrease, but it's a decrease nonetheless. So, and because we're predicting transient lodging tax to start rebounding, you'll see that I'm projecting that our revenue will be higher than expenses, and we will not need any additional TLT subsidy over the 25% that we already allocate to the actual fair. In fact, it looks like we will come out ahead, which, and I'm going to answer this question before it gets asked, because I know it will get asked, is what happens when we have a surplus and that goes back into the actual fairgrounds fund to continue to upkeep the fairgrounds, barns and lawns and all the good things, roofs that we have to do to upkeep the fairgrounds. So when we actually make money on the fair, it gets invested back into the actual fairgrounds.
Leah, we're going to need to go back with the sheriffs, because I know when you and I talked to the sheriffs last year, that was temporarily. We're going to need to go back to be able to make sure we find out what their costs are going to be.
So I've been working with their finance department already. They are planning on doing exactly what they did last year. They did a great job, and they're really doing everything they can to keep the costs as low as possible while still providing us excellent service and coverage that we need to keep the fair and our fairgoers safe. So they really try to not, when they put the schedule out and ask for people to bid on the spots, they try to keep the higher wage officers not on the schedule. They try to not allow for overtime, and they really do the best that they can. I think we're good. It might go up in cost a little bit just because everything is going up in cost, but I think it's money well invested.
You bet.
Especially for one other reason. Our security contractor is really struggling with filling positions as well. So while they were able to fill all the positions this last year, our security contractor, actually we have our security contractor for the fair, and then they actually subcontract out with a couple other security agents to beef up their numbers because we are a big fair and we have a lot of security needs. And they're having all the security companies in our region are having a really hard time filling positions. So they kind of put us on notice that they're a little bit worried. So the need for the sheriff's department might even be greater this year.
Okay.
And we're just
Do we
very
still-
grateful for their partnership.
Yeah. Do we still have Steve and Danny available too?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so as a reminder, Steve Volstek, a retired HPD officer, he comes back every year and serves as our head of security. He's fantastic. And then Dan
Larkins.
Larkins from HPD actually takes vacation during the fair and runs our parking lots and is on point for our contact with the HPD to take care of the traffic congestion around the fairgrounds. So both really great, and they're coming back again this next year.
Excellent. And this is proposed. You don't need us to do any action on it, correct?
This is proposed and I do need action.
You do need action. Okay, any questions on this proposed it should say 2022-23, isn't that correct?
It does.
The slide says 2021-22.
Oh, yeah, the slide does say that, but the one in front of you in the spreadsheet is the 2022-2023.
Okay, do we have any other questions on the 2022-2023 budget proposed?
I would assume there's enough money in there for our blue ribbons.
Absolutely.
I'm good. So I make a motion that we accept the 22-23 proposed budget.
Can we get a second?
I second it.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, AJ. I appreciate that. Now, how about if we take a vote? All in favor, please signify by
Aye.
raise your hand. Anybody in opposition? Right on. It looks like it's approved. All right. Moving on to board elections. Each year in January, January, we do elect a president and a vice president for the fair board. As far as the secretary and the treasurer, they are going to be the offices of the wingspan. We will use a secretary there and the treasurer there. So we need to elect president and vice president. Let's go president first.
I'd make a motion, we keep Gary as president. He's done a great job in very trying situations here.
I second.
Any other nominees? Okay, all in favor of myself being remaining, please signify by raising your
Aye.
hand. Aye. All right, anybody opposed? I guess it doesn't work. Okay, I will take that position. Okay, with that, let's elect a vice president, and I'd like to nominate Andy Dyke.
Second,
Any other nominees? Hearing none, all in favor of Andy Dyke, please raise your hand.
aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none. Okay, Andy, congratulations.
And well, thank you very much. And I'm gonna just restate the same thing I stated last year, which is it's difficult for me if I should end up being president. I will do what I can in the event of an emergency, but I don't want that to be a long-term solution if it should happen. But Gary, you're gonna be around for a long time, so I don't think I have to worry.
And I promised you that I wouldn't run in front of a truck, so that's good.
Ouch.
All right, so I will keep that promise, definitely. Do we have any other new business?
None from me.
Okay, seeing none. Any other matters of information, CAO's office?
So I just have a very brief county administrative office update. Two things, as you all know, We have a vacant position on the Fair Board, David Noyes. His position expired on December 31st. And actually Bob Rollinger's position expired on December 31st too. Bob has reapplied for his position. David Noyes has declined. His wife has taken a job in Salem and looks like they may be relocating. So he sent a very nice email to myself and Andy and Gary, letting us know he, thoroughly enjoyed his years on the Fair Board and wished us well in the future. We did have 2 applicants apply for the David Noyes' position, one being Mitch Nussbaumer. Many of you probably remember Mitch. He's visited some Fair Board meetings back in 2018 and 19 and has applied for the Fair Board in the past. And he applied again along with another person who applied back in June, and I reached out to her and never heard back from her. So I think that maybe her interest changed. But I presented those two candidates plus Bob yesterday to the Board of Commissioners, and I will be going back in 2 weeks to the board to present them again for a final vote. So we'll know here in the next couple of weeks who our board members will be. The Board of Commissioners gave me thumbs up on Bob Rollinger and Mitch Nussbaumer. So unless something drastically changed in the next 2 weeks, that's what I anticipate. And then I know that way back when in September, Sia Lindstrom informed you that she would be leaving the county in November. Sia is now gone, and her interim replacement, her name is Rachel Fuller. She couldn't be on today with us, but she wanted to let me know that, or wanted to let you know that she's excited to work with you, and she'll be doing her best to attend meetings in the future. She just wasn't able to attend this one. She had other commitments, but she is our interim assistant county administrator until a permanent ACA is hired. And so far we've been working with Rachel for a couple months, and she's great, and she's getting up to speed on all things fairgrounds and fair and wingspan. And so I'm sure she will be with us at our next meeting. And that is all I have on that topic.
Okay, moving on to time for oral communications 2. This is the chance for anybody that is in the audience that would like to address the board. At this time, you're given 5 minutes maximum for the oral communications period in there, with a 30-minute max communication time frame on this oral communication 2. Is there anybody that would like to address the board? Please raise your hand.
No hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay. With that, this is time to adjourn the meeting, and it is 5:30. And so we're adjourning the meeting with 1 hour. Wow. You get to make your meeting, Andy. That's pretty good.
So I just want to have you guys put on your calendar. The next meeting is March 2nd at 4:30 p.m. And I will be sending out notices before that. I just do want to note that we should have some major contracts to vote on at our next meeting. So we're getting ready to start doing some 5-year contracts. We've got contracts expiring, so they will exceed my contract authority. So we will need you guys to look at those in March, and we'll have more information coming.
Sounds good. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year to you all too. Hopefully 2022 is better than the last 2 years.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, good luck. Do you need any help, Bob, down there with fixing the office?
Well, there,
How much we can do?
we have moved temporarily. There's another Weichert office at 173rd and Cornell. The Weichert Elite, we're able to move in there temporarily. Everything is totaled, just taken down to the ground, and so we're trying, Steve is trying to secure, there's some space open at that 4th and Main where the apartments are down below. Perks of Art used to be there. And I'm going to talk to our Rotary Club about donating some money. There's a GoFundMe account. Nobody's insurance is going to cover everything. I know Steve will be is looking at a big hole trying to get restarted with what insurance will probably pay. The dress shop lost everything. She just went into business. That's been all over the news. Though I don't have any idea what happened. The lawyers that have been up on that second floor. They talked to the inspector. You know, all those people, Gary, they don't know anything right now. There's a big wall up. They're afraid that facade is going to come down, and the Stuff Antiques and those across the street are operating out of their back doors right now. So it's a huge blow to the city.
Oh,
and
yeah, you bet.
down there. But we appreciate your offering, and if there's anything, we'll certainly reach out.
Hey, Bob, did they look at the walkway that goes in the basement on your side of the street that goes over to Lay Antiques? Because there used to be a connection with a walkway that went underneath the streets, and I don't know if they secured that or not.
I don't have any idea. The couple of firefighters I talked to and the Charlie, the one inspector, they didn't know there was a basement. So
Yeah, I mean, all the fire prevention people, they're all gone that knew the basement in there. I can
Yeah.
remember walking through it at the time, and I don't remember it being totally secured. And that was another common attic type thing, just like the common attic space above above Wheels facility.
yeah, there was. So they're supposed to let us know. We know nothing more than that. But huge outpouring of support from the
Good.
chamber and everybody else to all the businesses. I've had many offers of desks and space if I needed to work anywhere, as well as any of my other realtors there. So we'll keep you posted with what's going on.
Okay. Sorry to hear
So-
it, and glad you're doing good.
Gary, if I could
Yeah.
add a little bit to that. The Hillsborough Community Foundation has a community relief fund that they have reinitiated. We used it for some of the fires and some of the COVID issues over the past couple of years. We have reopened that. We're working with other organizations to and individuals to make contributions to that. If you make a contribution to the Hillsborough Community Foundation, it's tax deductible as a charitable contribution. If you make it to GoFundMe, it is not. So we're asking for people to make a contribution. We've also asked for a few other organizations to make some matching monies available. So we're doing that. Remember that there's about 25 businesses that have been impacted by the Main Street, but there was also an apartment complex a few blocks more east that displaced about 17 individuals, 11 of which were children. And so we are also working with Community Action and some other organizations to get some clothing and some place where they can go and live. And so working with, there's just a number of movable parts right now on this. But the Hillsborough Community Foundation is trying to step in that gap and take the lead. So if you want more information on that, please go to their website. And we're trying to get more information up there as we know.
Hey, thank you. I thought that was the GoFundMe. I was confused.
No, GoFundMe is a different organization. Hillsborough Community Foundation.
So if Rotary is going to do something, we should be doing it to the foundation, not to the
Yeah,
GoFundMe.
and Rotary
Okay.
Rotary already has funds in the Hillsborough Community Foundation
Right.
program, so
Yeah, and
please
thank
do
you.
it that way.
Thank you for clarifying that, because people are asking me what they can do.
Yeah, there's more to come, Bob, on that. And so stay tuned. Probably in the next day or so, we'll have some more information on that.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you guys for the update on that. And, sorry, Bob, when I saw that, it was just heartbreaking, so terrible. All right, guys.
All right, thank you. All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.